for another week. So as I'm getting into the summer, it seems like some of my stuff I'm starting to do is just kind of a repeat performance. You know, I mow, I see some weeds, there's some crabgrass, nuts edge, I try to treat that, and a couple weeks later it seems like I'm kind of doing the same thing over again. So I'm trying to keep my videos from getting monotonous. So this week I'm actually doing something a little bit different, even though it is kind of centered around the weeds in the yard. So a few weeks ago I sprayed a second time with the quinclorac and some methylated seed oil on the crabgrass that I was getting through. That was the second treatment. The first treatment I did about 2 or 3 weeks prior to that, when I really started seeing it come in. I did not use the methylated seed oil because I didn't have any, so I used baby shampoo to work as a surfactant. It looked like it worked. It stuck to the leaf blades well, however it didn't give me any results. The second application with the methylated seed oil, I did see the crabgrass kind of get a little bit like a powder green to it, so I thought it was going to take effect and kill everything off. Didn't happen. So here it is, actually closer to the end of July, and it's still kicking. So what I did, since I don't have any other chemicals that will treat the second through fourth stage of the crabgrass, I believe it was Acclaim. Chris Voigt actually sent me a link to, I believe it was Iowa or Nebraska's, their agricultural studies. And so they were saying that during the second through fourth stage, I need to use Acclaim, which is I'm trying to think of the name, phenozixyl something rather. I'm sure I'm butchering the name on it. But if you look up Acclaim as the key ingredient of that, that'll kill the second through fourth stage. And then actually when it gets into the fifth stage and later, you can go back to using quinclorac. I might be getting to that point where I can use quinclorac again, but in the meantime, since I do not have any Acclaim, I tried my hand at just hand pulling the crabgrass last night. I was outside for maybe an hour, hour and a half pulling crabgrass. It's a good 15 pounds of crabgrass. And that was just one side of my driveway. The other side of my driveway is actually even worse, and it is pushed further out into the yard instead of along my driveway. So the other side, I'd say there's probably 2 to 3 times more crabgrass on that side than what I just pulled here. So with that, when I got finished pulling, I guess it's going to be kind of a dang if you do, dang if you don't, in regards to pulling the crabgrass versus spraying it and letting it turn brown. Now that I've went through and pulled all this crabgrass out, there's huge bare spots through everywhere. And you're going to get a lot of that bare spot because inadvertently I'm trying to dig at the crabgrass, and I'm probably pulling some actual grass out that needed to stay. But at that point, it's just so thick and heavy of crabgrass, it's going to happen. So I guess versus if I sprayed it with Acclaim and let it turn brown, there'd be a big nasty brown spot and it would eventually break down and there'd be a bare spot anyway. So I don't know which way is really better, but at least this way when I'm pulling it, I am getting those blades up, and I did actually find some blades of these crabgrass that was going to seed, so I did see some seed in there. So I'm glad I pulled them, and that's actually why it's in this bag, because when I pulled them, I put them into a bucket and then immediately put it to the bag, just in case if the garbage guy ran and it dumped and some stuff blew, I didn't want those seeds to end up back into the yard, and I'm kind of right back to where I am currently. So I guess for this week I'll try pulling a little bit more of the crabgrass and keep an eye on it. If I can see the crabgrass going to the fifth till, I'm going to try my hand at quinclorac again. But in the meantime, let me show you what the yard looks like when you pull that much crabgrass out of the yard. So this is part of the area that I pulled the crabgrass on. Very brown, which looks like probably where it was stressing, where the crabgrass was crowding out the rest of the grass. Got quite a bit of bare spots through here. This was very heavy. Actually, when I started pulling this, it started to actually pull up like big chunks of the dirt. along the road here. There's a bunch through there. So it looks pretty bad. This is all that defined fescue. So honestly, I don't care if this stuff goes brown or not, because I want the fine fescue to go away. Because it is a instead of fine fescue, I'd call it weenie fescue. This stuff goes dormant so easy. Up here, this is actually by my little ditch that goes underneath my driveway here. This was all just full of crabgrass. So I pulled all that. So all these huge bare spots is where there's just massive amounts of crabgrass. I actually got some over here. I started pulling on it, ran out of daylight. And this huge section of it all up through here. See, nothing but crabgrass all up through here. And from there it spreads out. All the way through here. So this is hours upon hours of pulling crabgrass. So I don't know if I can really have that much time to pull that much crabgrass. It was an hour and a half just to pull the one side over here, and that was just a small section up through here, versus this is all up through here, out through here. There's a little bit of section over here. So I'm gonna have to do all that. So it might be time for some Acclaim. So one thing I'll add, kind of a downer about living on a corner lot here. So main street is this way, and then this is a dead end street here. Kind of a pain living on this corner, as you get some people that fly through here to go down this street. They always got to cut through my yard. Apparently they don't know how to tell where the road ends and my yard begins. So that's why this little rock is here. It's about a 40-pound rock. It was over there, and at one point somehow it ended up all the way over here where this bare spot is. I actually just moved a couple weeks ago. It's already it was probably about 10-12 inches deep, dug in, where people ran over it so many times. This is absolutely full of the Scott's lawn soil. Put some grass seed in there, just some of that Scott's tall fescue mix that I have left over. So that's filling in. But this was absolutely dug in. I had to take a shovel and dig the rock back out. So I'll put it back over here. And some people don't learn their lesson. The neighbor next to me back there where that white SUV is, they got a son. I was watching the other day, and I just happened to be looking out the window, just one of those right time type deals, and looked at it, cut through the yard, ran over the rock. Rock goes flying up in the air. People don't learn. I mean, there's a 40-pound rock there and you're going to run over it. Come on, people, have some respect for people's property. All right, guys, what's up? It's Saturday, just trying to get a quick mow in. I'm in the backyard, so deck is torn down. Got my railing still up here. So that's going to be coming down here. I've got my former neighbor that does fencing. He's actually the one that did my fence here and on the other side here. I've got him coming back in. He's going to get my fencing going from where the railing is, starting from the fence, going over to the house. And he's going to put a gate in for me over here. So we're going to get that in. He's going to be in there Tuesday. So trying to get some stuff cleaned up, but getting a mow in back here. And so as it gets closer time for the patio to come in for this area and kind of around through here, I've pretty much at this point accepted the fact that my yard back here is going to get killed off, or at least a good portion of it, even though they're going to come through with probably put some boards down or something to try to keep from rutting up the yard. I'm still pretty well assuming that it's going to get torn up. Plus with them, they have to drive through here. They're going to get my dirt pile back there for no charge, so that's cool of them. But that's been sitting there for 3 years, so I'm glad that's going. So with that, that gives me the opportunity to try to nuke out the backyard. It's only 2,000 square foot, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal to do. However, I kind of told the wife about it, and she's like, well, I don't think they're really going to do that much to the yard. In the back of my mind, I already have it set that they're going to tear up the yard. So it gives me an opportunity to renovate the backyard. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is coming down to the time where I'm kind of waiting for the guys with the patio to give me a call saying that they're ready to start. I've already given them a down payment and they put us on the schedule, so I was about 6 weeks out. So probably within the next 2-3 weeks they should be ready to start doing the patio, putting that down, and so I'm kind of planning around that. So if they start in the next 2 to 3 weeks, once they go through and do the patio, then I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some glyphosate, hit the whole backyard. Some of the other guys in the lawn forum Discord chat was telling me some other chemicals to mix up in there, some triclopyr and I believe tenacity. So I have that in my cart on the Do My Own site right now. So getting ready to pull the trigger on that. Just going to figure out how to explain the extra $80 purchase to my wife. See how well that goes. And I have to buy the grass seed still, which I'm going to have to do soon anyway for overseeding the whole yard. Doesn't really matter if I'm doing just a reseed in the back or overseeding if I don't end up nuking it out. Either way, I'm going to need probably about 2 bags to go fairly heavy to kind of cover up the whole yard. I want to get the GCI turf grass to go in a little bit thicker and heavier through the yard to try to crowd out some of the other grass that is in the yard. Plus there's a lot of crabgrass I've shown you in the other videos where along my driveway that it is pretty bad with the crabgrass. So hopefully I can go a little bit heavier with the grass seed through there, fill that in. I was planning on using a slit seeder this year. Last year the only thing I did was a plug aerator that I purchased. It's an AgriFab 48-inch plug aerator. I didn't even get that great of plugs out of it, maybe about 1.5 inch, 2 inch, so it wasn't a good 3 or 4 inch plug that I should get, even though I watered and everything. A lot is probably due to the soil compaction and clay soil. So maybe with the humic acids that I've been starting to put down, maybe it'll help me this year with the plugs. I'll get some better plugs. But my plan this year was to nuke the backyard, plug aerate, slit seed, and then start hitting it up with some starter fert, and hopefully I can get something decent out of the backyard so the whole backyard is nothing but GCI's tall turf type fescue. The rest of the yard I might go in stages on it. The rest of it, it's still a Midwest mix that you would call it. Just fescue and Kentucky blue and a little bit of perennial rye. There's some fine fescue in there, so every time that we run the heat stress here, the fine fescue chokes out, starts turning brown, so then I get these nasty brown spots in my yard. While the rest of it, where the Kentucky blue and the tall fescue is, that all looks fairly decent and green. So that's my plan anyway for coming up. I don't know if the plan will change or not. Kind of depends on what goes on with the patio, I guess. If they start getting pushed back too far and I don't have time to deal with renovation before it gets too cold, then I might have to postpone it, and I might just not do anything with it in the back, not even overseed or anything until the spring, and then kind of maybe do a early spring renovation and try to bring it up then. I've never overseeded in the spring. I've always done it in the fall, so that might be option B, but we'll see how that goes. So with me planning on nuking out the backyard, this backyard section, I actually used my my riding mower back there. It's a Husqvarna, like YTH 2242, so it's 42-inch cut, but it only mows at about 3 1/4, 3.5 inches. So I typically don't use it anymore, other than for my my AgriFab plug aerator sitting back there. But I went ahead and just ran through here at the highest setting, so 3 1/4, 3 1/2. No stripes. I guess I could show you this, since I did always mention I was going to use a homemade striper that I made. Let's pull this out. It actually broke on me, but you can see how I set it up. Alright, so like I said, it kind of messed up on me this past year. So what this is, I just used some steel piping, thread them together. So you got two 12-inch pipes, one there, one there. There's actually a T that I put in there for a little bit of support between them, so these sides, like when I'm riding through, these don't kind of twist around or anything. So it's got more support through there. End of the pipe, both of these actually threaded into my PVC, and then inside this PVC, somewhere in that sand, is the end cap that you put on these piping that thread on. So the way I did this, once I got the piping through, I had my daughter, who was a little bit younger at the time, put her arm through each side and screwed on the cap for me. She did it on each side. It came off once on me early spring. I was able to get her to put her hand back in there and thread the cap back on there, and then not too much longer the other side came off, and then this one ultimately did as well. So due to the fact that I don't even really mow anymore, I don't use this, so I haven't even put it back together. But yeah, this was the homemade striper that I had talked about initially. So that just kind of plugged in there like that, and I drug it back behind. Have the bolt there that went onto my trailer hitch on the back of the mower, and the box here that I actually have, I would just take my bag of sand there if I wanted a little bit extra weight. There's about, I don't know, 17-20 pounds in there. I could take another half bag of sand, set it in there, and drag that around to give me another 20-25 pounds that I would add to it, and it would lay some decent stripes. But over time it was getting messed up. As you see, it has PVC caps on there. It is worn through where I go out to the street to turn around. It's done that on that side as well. So it is getting a beating on it, but it did decent, you know. I think I had maybe like $40 into it, mainly because all the steel piping and stuff was a little pricey, but I wanted something that was going to hold up and not bend and twist and break on me. So it definitely held up. So it's the design here that is kind of falling apart on me. So maybe if I did something else, maybe if I got some of these T-fittings here and kind of got my daughter to put her hand back in there, twist that on there, maybe thread lock it, it would hold on there a little bit better. And as far as these caps, maybe if I did some sort of like inset cap instead of an outset cap, one, you wouldn't have the edges here, so this could probably contribute to a little bit of screwing up of the stripe, because you'd have a little bit thicker stripe there on the ends, so it'd be a little bit more even. Plus it wouldn't tear up my caps there if it was inset. It would just drag directly on the PVC, which that might even tear it up too, so I don't know. Alright, so as I was starting to look at digging out these posts, I started on this side, figure I might be able to dig out on one side and kind of use a maybe a pickleball or something and push the posts out. That was absolutely terrible. Wasn't going to do it. So at that point I'm like, you know what, maybe I'll just call these patio guys and make them dig these out. But then my engineering instincts kicked in. It's like, you know what, I've got boards going across here. I bet you I can use something to kind of push them out. So what I did is I got my car jack. I dug underneath, put a board underneath there to keep it from spreading out, and put another board so it's kind of in the center of my two posts there, so I'm not pushing on one, putting too much stress on this side. And so it's sitting right in the middle, board across to evenly distribute the weight. I started jacking away, and started jacking, just pulling it right out. As you can, it's not too bad of a process. However, usually I have these other boards behind me, so I'm hitting that, so I can only go a little bit at a time. But these guys are coming right out, so physics.